Well, hi everyone. Welcome to The Invisible Man. It's a really exciting time. We have our first special guest coming up. Introductions? We had rehearsed.
Yeah, we did. Mine is good job. This is Mark David Stallard. He uses his middle name even though he doesn't have to.
And this is Ryan David Janz. His middle name is also David, but he doesn't use it even though he should. And we are It's All in the Mind. And ultra professionals. Okay, so special guests today is Robert Andreas Lobel. He's blues man extraordinaire, and he's going to be joining us, and he's going to pretty much be with us the entire time. But for those of you who are not familiar with Robert, I've got a little clip here, a video clip, just so you can see him live in action. So watch that for a few seconds, and then we'll be back with Robert. Okay, well, thanks everyone. Robert is with us, unfortunately, with a sans camera, but we have got him in full voice. So welcome, Robert, and welcome to The Invisible Man.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much, Ryan, for the special invite. And let me tell you that I was really excited to be here, and I'm still very excited, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, thank you again.
Well, yeah, thank you for making our show even better, or at least a little bit more spice. So that's great. So I'm sure that a lot of our audience I maybe not be familiar with you, so let us maybe let them know a little bit about yourself, so where you're from, what you're about.
Yeah, I was born in Romania. I was born in Romania, then I grew up with my grandparents. Then my mother and my dad is actually in Germany, and my mom is in Italy. So after 8 years, I traveled from Romania to Italy. So I immigrated to Italy, and I've been there for quite a few years, and almost all my life. And then I immigrated to Canada like 4 years ago, and I discovered the blues at an early stage.
Okay.
I think about 7. So.
Oh, okay.
7. Wow.
7.
Yeah.
He's got me beat. I started getting interested in music.
But I would say I did it time-wise, years. I started earlier. Right?
No comment. No comment, because I don't want to comment on the gray hair, because I have no hair.
I'm sorry. For the record, my hair is jet black. Okay.
It's the light. It's the light in the studio.
Yes.
The lighting.
That's what it is.
Yes, it's wonderful. Okay. So first off, I just want to get this right out there. You're hosting a show next weekend on the 24th of January. Do you want to let the audience know a little bit about that?
Oh yes. So we're gonna have we're planning to have the Saturday Night Blues Cafe on January 26th at 755 St. Anne's Road. The show is presented by More Gospel Church. Yes, that's exactly the poster here. I founded this show together with Jacob Friesen. I believe it was 3 years ago, and it all started with Jacob, that we met, and he was asking me to play for Thanksgiving 3 years ago, for a Thanksgiving dinner at the church, in actually the same basement that you know, Mark. You've been there. Mm-hmm. And so let me just tell you this, Jacob. I was trying to study English, to improve my English actually, and so I was going to a Salvation Army. They had those English classes that you could take there for free. And Jacob walked up to me and said, "Hey, listen, I heard that you play guitar, and I would like to have you playing some background music at our Thanksgiving dinner." So I said, "Okay, so when is that?" I said, "Well, it's in about a week or so." And I asked for how many people are going to have it. And he gave me a huge number, about 300 and something people. So he thought I was playing acoustic guitar, but in reality, I brought my electric in there. And actually, that's how I met also Doug Walker. we actually put together something, and we've been playing with backing tracks. And then Jacob said that he came up with the idea to have kind of like a coffee house and going on. And I explained my passion has been blues, and it is blues. And yeah, we founded the event. We started with 2 people in the band. It was just me and Doug Walker, playing with some backing tracks along, and then we ended up having. Right now, this is I believe it's the 16th or 17th show. I'm not. I lost count of it. And yeah, we ended up being in 12 people on stage at jamming sessions.
Oh, wow.
So, and from an audience to 80 people, we ended up having about like 200 and more. Or I'm not quite sure, but we had a full house last time, and I'm really grateful, and I really appreciate those musicians like Tim Butler and Reza and many others that has been to this show and playing there and contribute with their music and sharing the passion for blues. And yeah, it's been a great event.
Well, just a quick break. We do have someone joining us live online. It is the lovely and wonderful Sherry, Mark's wife.
Whoa!
Hi, Sherry.
Oh, sorry, that was. Oh,
hey, dude, it says kid friendly. Behave yourself.
Okay.
So, hi, Sherry.
Hi.
Hello, Sherry.
Okay, that's proof that this is live, because that would have never been allowed to air. I'm sorry for the embarrassing you again.
Yeah, well, I think if she's married to you for this long, she's got to be used to it by now,
yeah,
right?
Okay. You'd think. Okay, actually, you're giving away T-shirts as well, right?
Yes, that's correct. We have a prize. Everybody that is going to come to the show, they're going to have the opportunity to kind of like write their name on a ticket, and then we are going to extract the number and the name of the person by actually before the jamming, and the jamming is actually the last part of the show. The reason for this T-shirt is because we had on November 21st, 2018. We had the third year anniversary of the Saturday Night Blues Cafe, and we thought to do something special for it, and yeah, we're giving away this. Let me just mention that it's going to be autographed by everybody that's going to play there. So everybody including Mark Stallard, you're going to have his autograph on this T-shirt.
I had no idea, yeah.
And many others.
She says, Mark's wife says she is used to it, but sorry to segue there, but no, that's great.
That's excellent. Right, yeah, let's go back to the other screen. There we go. Yeah, so it's actually just so everyone knows that Robert invited me to join the blues band for this show. So I'm playing primarily rhythm guitar, and I've got rediscovered my talent for playing the harp. And I'm really, really good. I won't blast it down on mic today, but I'll be on stage playing this thing as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited and pumped about it as well. So, wish everybody on stage luck. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
I'll just sit in the audience with my camera and take pictures for you guys. That's what I'll do this time around. So.
Oh, amazing! Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So, we've got Mark down here that the. Robert, you have quite the interesting story about your first guitar, and I'm sure we all have our first instrument, sort of our first love, right? It's probably not the best; it's all beat up and banged up, but it's the one that we'll cherish for the rest of our lives. Why don't you go and tell us all about how you found your first love of music through your guitar?
Well, yeah, as you said, all of us, I believe, every guitar player has an interesting story about how they began playing and how they got the first instrument. Mine one is it's pretty much I was at an early age of 7 years old, and I was still in Romania. As I mentioned before, I grew up with my grandparents after communism in Romania. So I grew up in a quite poor family. I didn't have the money to afford any kind of like instruments. But what happened is my grandmother has an apartment in Romania that she owns there, and in the building, our neighbor that lived on the other floor, he was actually moving. He was leaving the country, So I was outside playing with some friends, and I noticed this guy had this acoustic guitar in his hand that, when you move out, you just kind of throw out stuff that you don't need anymore and stuff like that. And I I asked him, hey man, can I have that guitar? And he said, well, you need to go and ask your grandmother first. By the time I went inside the house, he already put it in the garbage. So I ran to the garbage and I digged in to find this acoustic guitar. I do remember it was a Yamaha acoustic guitar. Huge body. It was a huge body guitar. It was, I believe, well, from my hands were really small at that age. So for me, the neck, it seemed like it was huge. I could not put my fingers around it. And well, I brought it home. I cleaned it, and yeah, I believe I had the E, G, and the B string on it. These were my strings on that guitar.
You can play a G6.
There you go.
Quarterly, you could.
100 variations of G6. Woohoo!
Yeah, but the problem was I didn't know how to tune that thing, and the problem that I didn't know anything about guitar. I knew that the sound was amazing, and my grandfather used to have a radio station. I mean, no, it's a radio station, a radio, sorry, in his apartment, and I had the tape recording, and I remember at that time we were streaming from the radio some channels from U.S. and Africa and all over the places, and I all of a sudden I hear B.B. King presenting The Thrill Is Gone in concert on the radio. So I took the tape recorder, I recorded that live show that he had, and I went to the bathroom and I started playing after it. And I was there until 2, 3 in the morning. I remember my grandmother yelling from the bedroom, aren't you coming to bed? And I'm like, no, I don't want to. And stories and crying because she wanted me to go to sleep and I still wanted to play. So yeah, that was, and I hear that sound, I hear the sound and the feelings, the emotions. And I didn't know what the blues was. I didn't know what kind of music that was at that age, but I know it just something happened to me, when I heard it. So
It's pretty cool. Do you name your guitars, Robert?
Well, let me just finish by saying I do not have that guitar anymore.
That's okay.
It's just and after that guitar, I just want to point this story out. My mom and dad they divorced when I was a kid. My dad went to Germany. My dad is a musician, even now, and he made a song. Because, my first name is Robert Andreas, he named a song called Andreas. Now, my dad's father lived in the same town I lived, in Victoria, Romania. And he gave me an acoustic guitar. He came at my door and he knocked on the door. He gave me this acoustic guitar. And my dad and I, we didn't have contact. I mean, we didn't talk to each other because it was hard also to give a call, and because we didn't have the phone for a long time and all of that going on, and but he sent me the CD through mail, and this track was on that CD, and his brother, so my uncle, gave me this guitar, and I learned that track on that guitar, how to play. It was it's A minor, F, and G, 3 simple chords, and I just find out, this is interesting, I just find out 2 days ago from my aunt in Germany that guitar was my dad's guitar, and my dad recorded that song with that guitar.
Oh, nice.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So that's something new that just happened, and yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's small world, right? As they say.
Indeed. So do you have a first instrument story?
I'm trying to think. You go ahead and tell yours.
I'll put him on the spot. He did know we were going to talk about this, so I'm not being a complete jerk. Actually, well, I've always had a love of music, but hadn't really. I took the usual routes that we all did on this. There was we got piano lessons, didn't like it, gave up. I did drum lessons. I liked it, but my parents wouldn't buy me a drum kit, and I had a little practice pad, and I didn't want to practice on a practice pad. And suddenly, out of the blue, I was about 13 or 14. A guitar came from distant relatives in the US for a birthday present for me, and there was this little classical guitar. It wasn't a particularly good one. Nylon strings and everything. And of course, I thought this is great, this is amazing. But it came on my younger sister's birthday. They mixed up the dates. And of course, fighting ensued. Why did she only get the jigsaw puzzle and I got a guitar? And so my dad just had enough. He just picked it up and put it in the loft where it stayed for about a year and a half. And I had long forgotten about it. And I was hanging out at a youth club. It was a church youth club that I was going to. And there were these pretty young girls. I would say young. They was the same age as me. Probably about 14, 15. I'll be 15, I guess. And they were playing the guitars. Simple flamenco, actually. And, being what I am, turn the collar up. Hey, you want to show me how to play that? And then, well, here's how you play an E, and here's how you do this. And I'm like, oh, the right-hand technique came instantly. And I'm like, okay, I've lost interest in you now, young lady. And I remembered I got the guitar in the attic, and I went up and went upstairs, climbed into the attic, got the guitar down, and locked myself in the bedroom, not literally, but metaphorically, locked myself in that bedroom for about a year, taught myself how to play it. So that was my first guitar, and the kind of music I was playing was obviously what I was listening to, which was really my parents' record collection with the biggest influence. So Bob Dylan, Simon & Garfunkel, the Beatles, the biggest influences, which is why I think, well, Robert, your influences were these great guitarists that could just do these wonderful things, and my influence were these poets and these tunesmiths, and that's kind of where I put my focus in, was in the lyrics and in melody, and so that's kind of me. I can go on, as you know.
Yeah.
But,
a response. Well, two things before I launch into my sort of musical history. Shout out to Jessica, my wife. I don't know if Evelyn's watching. My little daughter, she probably is. So say hi. They just I got a text from her saying that she's in there, and another response from Sherry about Mark. Luckily, you like older women, or I guess luckily for her, he likes older women.
Yes.
Anyways,
I am her toy boy.
Right on.
And hi, Jess, by the way. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, sweetie. Love you. Much like Mark had sort of reiterated, I kind of like picked up on music as a young kid. I think when I was in grade 2, I think my parents took us on a trip. We had a sponsor child in the Philippines, and we wanted to meet her. So when we were there, I was like interested in guitars, right? And so, or like, because you're a kid and you don't really know any better. So we bought like this guitar, and I played around with it, but it never really came of anything because I was like 6 or 7 years old, right? So it just sat around for forever and didn't do anything, and got used in props as a prop more than anything. And then probably by about 9, 10, I started doing piano lessons, but I would always play by ear. I just never took the time to learn. If it sounded right to me, or if I listened to it enough, I could play it. And again, they wanted to focus more on musical grammar, which I kind of regret not learning that now. It's all I'm not musically illiterate in terms of the page. I can figure it out, but I'm not fluent. It's I can pick up a few things. So again, that's a bit of a regret. But then in about and then years just playing around with keyboards and stuff like that, and not really doing much of anything. And then by about grade 7, your friends are like, "Oh well, we want to start a band," and I just decided one guy was going to be a guitar player, and one guy was going to be the drummer, and one guy was going to be the singer. So I'll just be the bass player. And that's what I said. I want to be a bass player. And I remember my dad saying, "Why wouldn't you want to be lead?" I'm like, "Because I want to be the bass player." I had no idea that I would be signing myself up for like 20 plus years of, it's got to be pretty close to 20 years of playing bass. And it's to the point where I identify actually as a bass player. I can play guitar because
Bassman.
I can play guitar. I've written songs. I've performed songs on guitar, but it's not really my passion. I just really enjoyed playing bass. I just got a knack for it. I figured it would be easier, and in a sense, yeah, it is. But there's a fine line. So my first bass guitar that I bought for myself, that wasn't a rental from lessons or whatever, was a Yamaha Supertone, I think, and a Garnet bass. It was this old antique. I still have it to this day, and it sounds great. We used to practice both plugged into it. Just a wonderful, solid amplifier. And yeah, that's it. And I get sentimental with my basses from. I didn't name that one, but from all the other ones that I've bought, I've named them all. So, including my upright stand-up bass, they all have names, and I cherish them. And one is still out on loan. Amber, I'm looking at you.
that's becoming your catchphrase. Actually.
That's twice now.
Oh my goodness.
So, are you in the habit of naming your axes, Robert?
Well, after acoustic guitar, I got my first electric guitar that you saw at the practice.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Strat. It's black and white. I never thought how to name it. Mm-hmm. Nothing came in my mind. I know people, and I heard that many people like you guys name their instruments. I never did that.
Yeah, actually.
Mark doesn't name his either. It's just me.
It's just you. Well, but there is other many people out there that they name their instruments, and it's cool. They come out with these cool names, and it's just I don't know what to call
Lucille,
it.
Right?
Yeah, like about 15 of them.
Yeah,
they're all Lucille.
Well, it has like Lucille, and Eric Clapton has Blackie, Brownie, and etc. And my one is just
they don't have to be. You don't have to be creative. Yeah. Bring me
just...
taupe.
Yeah, it's just an instrument, right?
Took a second, but I got it. Off white.
Yeah.
Yours is better. Yeah. So it is a standard. So I do every now and again get asked, "What's your guitar name?" I just make up a name. And I try and get it as silly as I can. Ethel, I think, is often one.
I think you said that once on stage. Someone asked her, yelled it from stage, and you said, "Oh, it's Ethel." I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I didn't think you named him. It's like that's where I just
whatever comes to mind. Yeah.
Smile on stage. Anything can happen on stage, right? So
Edna.
Oh yeah,
Edna. I have so there's Alexis, May, Jenny, Lizzie, and Sally. Those are my 5.
Sally's my favorite because it's named after a Doctor Who character.
It is, yeah. Sally Sparrow, we named it. That's the big yeah, Sally Sparrow.
Yeah, so we're big Doctor Who fans, at least. We actually have a Doctor Who song on the CD.
Indeed.
So we're quite proud, which it's so difficult to play live, we've never done it live. We just had such a hard time doing it.
It's got it's one of those songs, it's kind of like, you listen to Led Zeppelin and like Black Dog, where it's got that really weird time signature that they kind of go fast and then slow, but this one just has sort of a weird offbeat. Yeah. It's got a weird backbeat to it. And,
so the drummer will have a hard time then.
Depends on the drummer, I guess. Right?
Depends on the drummer, exactly.
But we need that drums to hold it together. But unfortunately, when I put the song together, I actually took some drum loops and actually had to cut them up so that they would fit the rhythm I needed. And
it was pretty interesting trying to lay down that was a really challenging one, and then trying to imitate the TARDIS sound, because it was a piano string that they used originally with like something scraping along it, and we took like a shot glass off my mantle and rubbing it against my bass strings to get it.
And we couldn't quite do it, but we did end up with a nice whale sound.
Close, it was
about close. 15 tracks overlaid each other, trying to get that scream at the beginning. At the beginning. So that was good.
Or whatever.
Anyhow, yes. So what musicians? I know the answer to this, but what musicians do you think you've learned the most from? And with that, I'm just going to disappear for a second.
Wow, it's I have a huge list. I mean, that I've been influenced by. There are too many. Like starting from Robert Johnson, Albert King, Freddie King, going through even artists that today are just are alive, like obviously Eric Clapton and B.B. King. But when I first discovered B.B. King and Eric Clapton and Robert Cray and Buddy Guy, and I wanted to go deeper into it, to see what's after. Where did these guys got it from? And then once you see the second line of it, then you just want to go deeper in and say where this came from. It's been, the list is too huge, but the main ones are like Robert Johnson, Albert King, Freddie King, obviously Eric Clapton, Muddy Waters, BB, Buddy Guy, Robert Cray. I love. There is a song there, Time Makes Two, that he played live at the Crossroads. I believe it was 2010, if I'm not wrong. There is like many people, and then you know what? There's also musicians from Winnipeg that has created a huge impact in my music, as Tim Butler, Big Dave McLean, the two top musicians my opinion, they're the two top musicians in Winnipeg. And it's a thing when you hear somebody on YouTube playing, and it's a thing when you go on stage with them and play. These guys, when I heard Tim playing the first time, I've been like shocked. I said, I want to hang out with this guy. And if he's watching now, thank you for a friendship, and all the influence over the years. And it's a huge list.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm in the same boat. There's too many to choose from. In terms of like music, it comes and goes. It depends on what I'm into at the time. But as a steadiness, I love like Led Zeppelin and like some of the like I've actually come to. I've never really been a huge Beatles fan until I started playing with Mark, and then. I was familiar with Beatles music, but then all of a sudden you start playing some of the songs that aren't as familiar, and it's like, yeah, that's really quite interesting, and it's fun to play, and it's challenging, and it's an interesting song. So I've kind of come to an appreciation of the Beatles. But I grew up in the 90s. I sort of came of age in the 90s, right? So it's like a lot of 90s bands are or like early 90s, like when I started it. I was 13 years old. Nirvana Kurt Cobain had already killed himself by that point, but I had, Morbid. Yeah, way to go.
Uplifting.
Yeah, exactly. But at that point, all my friends were still into like Nirvana and like Stone Temple Pilots and all the grunge scene and the sort of post-punk revival, whatever they want to call it, era. And so that's always going to be a big influence. But then you start realizing as you get older, like the indie scene had a big feel on how I wanted to write and record music, and then also I played in a metal band, so you can't get away from heavy metal. So there's so much interesting stuff you can learn from playing in a metal band. There's like just about anything can be an influence for you, right? So I try not to limit myself, but but then of course, yeah, as a bass player, I got to say Primus obviously is a big is a big influence. Try to, but yeah.
I think for me, I already mentioned the big three, with the Beatles, Simon & Garfunkel, and Dylan. For me, music was always about the melody, and it was always about the lyrics. And before I was even really knew I was musical, I guess. It kind of sounds a bit silly. I remember being probably younger than 10, so maybe about 8 to 10, walking back from school through the woods, and I remember just making up songs, just singing along, making up the words. And by the time I'd gotten home, I'd forgotten them, and and it never occurred to me to write anything down. And it wasn't until I picked up the guitar for the first time that I was able to capture some of those songs that were bouncing around inside my head. And of course, a lot of that was then influenced by the melodies and the harmonies and the lyrics and the poetry of those three, and that still sticks with me. I'm also I've done some fiction writing as well, and I learned a lot from that as well. Just it's one thing to write down your poetry, write down your lyrics, and say I'm done. But it's better now then pull yourself away from it and look at it now as a work of art and say,
right.
How can I tighten that up? How can I make that better? Trying to stay away from the pedestrian rhymes as much as I can. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you don't even need any rhymes. But then as that learning to edit myself with my prose, I can now go back to the songs and write them and say, oh, I can edit this out and move this around a bit. And then the lyrics now become as much part of the music as the melody. And because all the instruments that I've picked up, particularly the guitars I picked it up, it gave me a way of recording that, at least in my head. At least I can now repeat it. And then I learned the instrument to fit the songs rather than it was the melody or the guitar that brought me in. It was something else. I came into it from a completely different way than you have, Robert, for instance. Well, there you go. Yeah.
That works.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, actually, you write your own material, Robert. Do you remember the earliest song that you had written?
Oh Lord.
No, so there's a trick in the question. The earliest one you remember. It doesn't have to be the earliest one you did.
Oh, okay. Well, the earliest one that I can personally remember is the one that I'm actually working on an album right now.
Okay.
I can tell you. Well, I'm currently working on this album that I thought to do. It's an acoustic, kind of like vintage album, blues album. That it's called Hope. I've been the earliest one that I can personally remember is A United World. It's more of a classic rock blues than actually it is a blues. It's it talks about like as we know, and I won't get on the politics here, but we know that in this world there's a lot of like war zones and people dying every day and poverty and everything. So in this song I try to explain how we could be more united by just having a little bit of care for one another, and kindness. So that's probably the earliest song that I can definitely remember, other than the jamming session that we did last night that I'm taking to record. But yeah, this is.
We're never going to be that good again. We're never going to be that good again, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's always different, Even it's that's fine that you're saying that, because I've been playing as I said, in Winnipeg for the last 4 years. We played many shows. We also played in Steinbach and La Broquerie, and we always, like, to give an example, talk about the influences before. There's always a song that you like, an Albert King song or a Buddy Guy tune or an Eric Clapton tune that you've done it maybe a dozen of times, but it does not sound how it should have sounded in your head, So the song sounds, altogether it sounds really nice, professional. The band are really talented people and great people, and also you, Mark. But all the time that you after a show, but after a show is when you end the song and then you look back at that tune, you always said, but it quite doesn't sound as it's that sound that the artist has. Because when I'm doing a cover or anything, I always try to respect the main artist. With I'm not saying that you have to play the same, like exactly same notes, but to respect and to pay tribute to these people that pass it on younger generation and on us as influences. Yeah, it's always you just done it thousands of times, and it's just like, no, it's not there yet. It's not there. There's something missing all the time. Writing originals, it's more of a, whatever comes out. And for me, it's hard writing. It's I'm probably the worst person writing songs, because it's sometimes it's really hard to come up with words, and it's depending how you feel. I'm more of a solo guitar, like a lead guitar player. That I'm expressing myself through the solo than actually through words. So
yeah, that's kind of what's in. I guess it's really what's inside and what you've nurtured. Is that really what comes out, right? So
and the way that comes out, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So, you asking me what the first one I wrote? I've probably written a bunch. The one that sticks out for me, and I always laugh about it because it's the only one that I recorded. I decided I'd get really ambitious. Before Jessica, my wife, and I were married, before I even met her, I was just, single guy and dating, and I ended up going on a date with this one girl named Jenna, and and there it is. One, it's on the bottom of the list. So we just had a great time. It obviously didn't go anywhere, but one of the things that just came up in our conversation was we threw this phrase around. We were kind of laughing because we're both, like, obviously with the plaid, and you can't see, but I've got more skinny jeans with cuffed jeans on right now, and I see the dark rimmed glasses and the spiffy hat here. It's very sort of like millennial hipster kind of life, and it's toned down from when Mark even met me for the first time. So, but we were just joking about sort of that hipster culture, and both of us kind of tongue in cheek because we're both dressed very like hipster. And I think she threw out the phrase "practicing pretentiousness," and I was like, "Hey, that's a great phrase." And she knew that I was a musician and been playing around with writing songs and stuff. And she says, "Well, you should use that in a song." I said, "I will if I can mention you by name in the song." And she said, "Deal." And so I wrote this song about a young girl who's just trying to fit into a crowd, but because one of the subtext of our conversation is, because if you listen to the song, you think, "Oh man, that's kind of just mean to write that about some person." But the whole subtext of the song was someone who's trying to fit into a crowd where you're just dressing a certain way because you feel like everybody else is dressing away. So if everybody's wearing plaid, I'm wearing plaid. If all the girls are wearing long swoopy necked with their shoulder hanging over the side, sort of 80s callback sweater with satin tights and combat boots, well, I'm going to wear that too because I want to fit in. And that's kind of like the whole theme to it. Like the subtext of the song is I'm dressing this way to fit into a crowd, but I still feel just as lonely or even more so than ever. So, and that was sort of also what we had discussed. So that's where that whole thing came around. And then I was like, well, now I've got a theme to the song. How do I do it? I don't know many chords on the guitar and I don't know how to play very well. And so I knew how to play at least somewhat of a version of Last Kiss, the Pearl Jam song that they covered another band from the 50s, and it's that like that kind of beat, 50s beat, and I could play that, and I could make up a little guitar solo for it, and of course that would be really easy to play as bass. And then I was like, how do I record this? All I have is a crappy BlackBerry at the time, so I ended up getting a hold of, like, you do what you can, and I don't have money to spend on recording software, right?
So, it's definitely expensive stuff, even today.
So I got a soundboard, my HP netbook, and Audacity, this little 5-channel soundboard that I had gotten through a friend. I don't think Dan is watching, but Dan Epp, if you're watching, well, I guess it'd be Lisa, but Dan would be watching off Lisa's account. If you guys are there, but thanks, Dan.
Hi, if you're,
if you're there.
Well, hi, when you watch it later, let's be
positive. There you go. When you watch it later, thanks for loaning me that. So and just ended up having inputs in from my stuff, and it is what it is. It doesn't sound really super polished. It doesn't sound really amazing, but considering all what I had and the struggles that I had to program a drum beat and write a song and come up with lyrics and a verse chorus bridge with a solo and then try and harmonize with myself. Like, I'm not a very at the time, I'm not very confident now. I can do background vocals now, but I wasn't very confident in my voice then, and I'm singing in a key that I'm not familiar with and not really in my range, and then trying to harmonize with that. So boom. I didn't get a third date out of it, so so I don't know if that's because she was mad at me for the content or how bad I performed it. But
it's the same here, because I hate my vocals, and to say if I need to be melodic, because singing the blues, it's not literally hard for a singer to do. When you ask a singer like an opera singer or a lyric singer to sing the blues, or a classic rock singer, they are just doing it. Same here. I have a PA system that Mark Dobbs, the drummer, borrowed to me with Shure SM57 condensed mic and a Shinser mic that I'm using for the amp. And that's how I've been recording for the last 2 months. Or either we're lucky because we sometimes we have, we often have the opportunity to go to the church where Mark knows that we're practicing. We have a PA system there with Audacity and probably we can add some more softwares that can record, but equipment, it was expensive and now it got even worse because it's a lot of money you need to put in. You probably sell the house to buy like a good, PA system or stuff like that. So it's really crazy. But I'm sure, you know what, those are the best memories because the songs that you record with the software that is not billions or wherever you think, often turns out to be your best song ever. I heard many people saying that, so.
Again, open to debate. But before we go on to the next or move on, we got another person joining us here, Monica Tobias. Is that one of your friends there? You want to give her a shout out there real quick?
Well, that's my mother, and I say hi to her. And
hi, hello.
Hi, Robert's mom. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
hey. Okay, Sasha, we'll move on. I have an earlier song that I remember, not the earliest one I've written.
I'm going to excuse myself real quick. I'll be back.
Hey, so it was actually, we actually recorded this on the CD, and it's a song called I Didn't Say What I Mean. And it was actually a song that I wrote, I would have been probably 16, 17, and I'd written it for, as you do, for the current girlfriend. And she hated it. I don't know why, except for it was horrible. And the song actually went, it's very similar to what it is now. I didn't say what I mean, didn't mean what I said. Didn't say what I mean, didn't mean what I said. But I love you, that's all that counts. And it's horrible, the way it just went down. And I can't remember how the verse went at all. And I decided, I hate the song now, and it didn't take me long to hate it. But just recently, maybe like 2012, I realized I've been kind of humming this to myself probably for decades. And I thought, well, you know what, get it out of my head. How do I get this out? But then I made an intellectual decision. Well, if it's stuck with me this long and I don't like it, maybe there's something in there that's worth working with. So I took that song and I changed the ending. So now it's I love you, yes I do. And I go up and I changed it and I'm like, oh, that completely changed the dynamics of the song. Rewrote the verse. And it's actually now on the CD. Available, actually, I think we've got it on YouTube. So if you want to check it out on YouTube, whoever, or you can buy the CD. But yeah,
absolutely.
That was the earliest one that I remember.
I remember when we played that. When you first performed that song for me when we were starting off there. Thought that was a really fun song to play. And yes, you should check it, or you could buy our CD. This CD. Right here, $100. Special price just for you, 10 though. So.
Oh, just for me, 10. Well, you said that live now. Now you're in trouble.
Well, if I knew he was prepared to pay, I wouldn't have given him one.
Well, I believe
for
that.
anybody out
Mark
there.
gave me a few CDs here that I listened. Which one? I listened to the. I think it's A Promise of Better Days.
Yep.
Yeah, this one.
Yep.
The one that you actually showed there in the video, I didn't have a chance to listen to, but let me just tell you that it's
right
it's an
here.
amazing.
A Promise of Better Days. Mark can get you.
Exactly. Yes, that's correct. That's the one, and it is a pretty good audio quality and poetry that this guy has. So yeah, you guys should check it out.
Yes. Yeah,
A little bit of advertising here.
I've
Very
got
good
it.
advertising.
Actually, pass me the CD over.
This one?
Yeah, because I think we actually do a couple of these songs. I think already.
May I?
Don't Fly Away.
I'm sorry. May I just say that Jacob Friesen. May I just say that Jacob Friesen here? He actually just joined us today, and he's the lead pastor of War Gospel Church. He's the one that actually we put up together the Saturday Night Blues Cafe. So hi, Jake, and
hi, Jacob. Nice to meet you.
Jacob, do me a huge
thank you for
favor.
joining.
Next time you see Paul Epp, smack him in the back of the head and say it's from Ryan with love.
I'm sure he will do that. I'm sure he will, literally.
I don't think it will. Exactly.
Jacob, I'm expecting big things from you. Namely, hit Paul. He's one of your associate pastors who's married to Laurel, who's like the sister of a really good friend of mine, and just the whole Friesen family. I don't think any of them are watching. But if you are, or ever do...
They'll be watching later.
Yeah.
Yes. Be positive. Be positive.
You will watch later. The Jedi mind skills there.
So actually, there's at least 3 that we do regularly. Love Like Yours, Don't Fly Away, and It's Not Right. So we do actually.
There's a
we
few
do cover those.
of Mark's.
We cover some of my solo work as the band. Yes, as It's All in the Mind. Actually, I think it's probably worth just for anybody who's watching us that doesn't really know what's going on. We're actually being joined by Andreas Lobel, and just so people are up for it, he's actually going to be hosting a show at Magna. I'm going to put this image back up here, just here, as I rustle around. There we go. So, Moral Gospel Church Saturday Night Blues Cafe. It's right in front of me and I can't read. January 26th. That's next Saturday at 7 p.m. So, just wanted to make sure that's in everyone's mind. Okay, let's continue. All right. So where were we?
We were talking about interesting songs that we had written.
There we go.
So,
well, actually, I've actually got. Maybe we can talk about what's actually. Think of something that a piece that you've written or performed that was in maybe that might just be an interesting story. Here's one. A very, very light story was we have a song on the CD called Flesh and Blood, and it is a song that is really just about lamenting the way that personal interaction doesn't happen anymore, and it's all done on a phone or text, like this, like you guys watching this on your phone as well.
Yes, so, we're aware of the irony.
And so it was good. I actually wrote this. The majority of the lyrics on this one were written by Gavin George, who was my songwriting partner for many years. And when I was
shout out Gavin if you're watching or when you watch.
Woohoo! Hey Gavin, why aren't you replying to your emails? So what was I talking about? Yeah, so Flesh and Blood. So he wrote the lyric, and I had the melody, and then I approached him saying I'm not sure what to do with this. And so then he came back with a couple of verses, and I think I just tightened them up a little bit, and then wrote the third verse. And ironically, I actually wrote the chorus on my work iPhone. So that was a bit of irony, lamenting technology and then using technology to create the song that was lamenting. Anyhow, there we go. Yeah. Just thought I'd throw that out. It was in my list. You got anything that comes to mind?
Well, we have "I'm Alive" marked down here on the bottom there, and that was one of those when we were coming up with songs, and Mark said, "Hey, you want to give your hand to?" Because really, how it comes is I write a bass line, and that becomes sort of the core of the song, and then Mark comes and fills in some guitar, and then usually does all the lyrics, which is good because I'm not good at lyric writing, and he didn't believe me, so he said, "Here, you should do this song." And so I came up with a bass line, which is what is in the song. It's prominent in the song. And he said, "What have you got for lyrics?" And I said, "It's crap." And he says, no, what have you got for lyrics? And I told him the lyrics. I remember the lyrics. I won't tell them to you, but they're crap. And he says, "Yeah, no, they're crap." That's bad. I'm like, so, but yes. It's actually become one of our well-received songs, and is.
There we go. Another shameless plug.
There is a. Where is it? Where is "I'm Alive"?
Number 5.
Yeah, I actually have a writing credit on it. You can't see it. It's tiny.
One?
Yeah,
there's only one on there.
Yeah, I think it's.
Okay. Yeah. So
yeah.
Ryan and I have written several songs, so kind of surprised. Next song he'll have more than one.
Well, I mean,
sure.
we've I mean, I get most of the stuff is stuff that we had Mark had been playing for years, and I was more than happy just to go along. I didn't care really so much about the writing credit, but I was like, hey, I got a writing credit on this one.
Yeah, we've got a few of them, and but then to be honest, and I think I posted on Facebook as well to this effect that had you not come up with this bass line and this feel and the groove and the mood of the song would never have been written. So it's absolutely deserve the equal credit on that one for sure.
Right on.
Wow.
I'll buy you a beer at Smitty's for that.
I don't think he will, but I'll try. I'm trying to get the power on.
Well, for me personally, it's. I mean, collaboration with other artists has been happening because, like to give an example, Doug Walker is one of the probably the best people I ever met on this earth. That his writing and creativity it's so amazing. Like there is some songs that he came up with, and we were sharing just a few 3 chords. And I mean, he was just showing me like a 3 chords progression song. It's really easy. And, you know, he said, well, I wrote this and then, you know, I wrote the lyrics and everything. But what about if you do some rhythm section here, or you do a solo here or wherever? But I always liked when Doc, for example, he has that kind of like touch to a song that, I don't know, it's different than many other people, because he's more of he comes from a flamenco kind of like Latin background, but he has been also a jazz player, so you can definitely hear a little bit of jazz going on in the blues. For me, the jazz has always been like a top thing, you know, like you need to be a really good player to play the jazz. I mean, I can jingle on it, but it's never gonna be, you know, and I never could reach it because it's a very complex language, you know. And when I hear that coming out with some songs, and I hear that jazz feelings to it, we always have that debate, kind of like discussion between, because he says, "Oh, do a little bit more solo," and then no, you play more here, or you do a solo here, or you know. And some songs has to be like kind of like a Doug Walker kind of style of music, you know, to give that mark on it. But yeah, we definitely had, even with the band, there is like or Doug, either I or Kerry comes out with something, and the guys start working around it, and then it happens to be a song. But then either we record it right away with a phone, or either 2 minutes after all of us forgot what we did. So it's it's normal, you know. It is really normal to forget right away stuff, but yeah, it's making music. It's, as I said, it's an art, you know. It's not a day-by-day thing, right? So
yeah, for sure. Okay, I think that's I think we're going well. I think we're maybe we can cut it off here, and maybe we can invite you back and we can continue the conversation, Robert, if you're up for it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and just a shout out for everyone. As I remind everyone, I know we just did this, but Morrow Gospel Church, next Saturday at 7 p.m. I'll be posting some links on the It's All in the Mind Facebook page as well, so everyone's going to know what's going on. And of course, I'm going to be joining, be up on stage as well, dancing around and being a goof, I'm sure, at times. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I'll have the pictures to prove that he was being goofy.
And so, a very big thank you, Robert, for being our very first and very most special of special guests. So,
thank you for inviting me. It's you guys are amazing, and I love your show, and
thank you.
You guys have that fun thing going on. You guys make people laugh, and yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
So, if you want to hang around, we'll chat after the show, Robert.
Absolutely.
And we'll just everybody that we're Robert, the other Robert, Ryan and I are going to be heading over to Smitty's on Pembrona by Grant. If anyone wants to come and say hi, we were overwhelmed with the response that people that didn't turn out last time. But that's fine. If it's just us, it's just us. That's cool. But if you want to come and say hi, come and say hi. So thank you very much once again, Robert. And we'll see you all, everyone out there, next month. Thank you much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Holy invisible.